Are you ready to start to date again? Are you certain you know how to identify red flags? There's so many things that we can do to, I'm going to say test someone that we're dating, but just s- watch, I think is a better word. And today I've got a friend of mine, Chavisa Horeman, and she's going to talk to us about the red flags to look for, sort of the indicators that this person might be abusive and what to look for and how to act when you see this and what to run away from. So let's go meet her and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome, Chavisa. I'm so excited that you are here today. We are going to talk about sort of the early warning signs, red flags. I haven't done a red flag video in 10 years, so I'm very excited to do this. Let's start off by just what are some of the red flags or the indicators that you're with a narcissist?
So I come to my work as a trauma-informed divorce and co-parenting coach. So I, like you, work with people who are dealing with high conflict all the time. And so I
Mhm.
started thinking to myself, how can we stop people having these experiences? So what I did is I put together a body of research evidence that's peer reviewed and that we know are predictive indicators of abuse. So these are the tiny micro um, nuanced little signs that come up really early on interacting with a person where their behaviors will let us know that they are going to be problematic into the future. And so when we know how to identify these little warning signs, then we can step back gently at the beginning and not go through a world of pain.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this first body of research is that it is very much about triangulation and frequency. So, how often these happen. So, as you know, we all have personality flaws and we all have bad behaviors that we do. So, it's not about a single bad behavior, like, okay, like the first one is behaving arrogantly or entitled, right?
Mhm.
Like, let's say you behave arrogantly or entitled. That's your personality flaw. Yeah, maybe that comes up like once every year and there's a big issue. Like once every year is very different than once every 2 weeks, right?
Or
It's
every
very different
day.
than every 4 days, right?
Mhm.
So, being arrogant or entitled is one of the behaviors that we triangulate for. In terms of sex, it's about disagreeing about something sexual or having sex when you're not in the mood. So one person is not interested and the other person persists and insists and moves forward. That is an override of space. Other ones are around being out socially and creating an uncomfortable situation in public. So the altercation at the bus stop, the altercation at the grocery store, the altercation at the bank, the altercation at the park,
Mhm.
because the thing is, we are social subjects. We are socialized that people are kind of observing each other and we behave in different ways when we're out on the street. So if you're willing to go and have an uncomfortable situation or a blow up on the street, it means basically not only are you disregarding the person in front of you, but you don't care about the social norms of the society, right?
Wow, good point. Yes, for sure.
Anyways, the list can go on and on and on. Like there's like 20 of them.
Uh-huh.
And but these are major ones where we're starting to see also when like a partner says reacts negatively or reacts badly when you say no to something. So it's like, can you take me to the dentist tomorrow morning? No. Like, I can't. I've got to work. And then they say, well, you are totally neglectful of me. Da 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 da. It's like, well, actually, I told you I have to work.
Mhm.
And I have a prior thing. I wish I'd known earlier. I would have adjusted my schedule to take you to the dentist. But when they react badly and then, it becomes another problem, this is a warning sign, right? Where they're reacting badly to when you say no to things because it's reasonable that we have to say no to things.
And I would think too, when it becomes, the reaction and the no is also tied with the boundaries, where if you set a boundary, they explode. To me, that's like, a red flag jumping out because if they don't honor your boundary, they'll never honor it. So that's like the given on that one because it really ties into what you just said as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I do a whole body of research that I can share around how when people are dating, so often people are dating from like 15 years until they're, in their 70s, as people like rebuild their lives, they have interest in romance. And so it's like how to read people's online dating profiles and be able to identify when there are problematic behaviors going underway, right? And so there's a whole body, like an amazing body of knowledge on this, and books being published on this. So, but what I really like about the early online dating information around red flags is that people inadvertently let you know that they're problematic, and let you know that their worldview and their understanding of relational power dynamics is problematic. But the other piece is people not only tell you that they're problematic, not only from the words that they choose, but also from the photographs they choose to depict themselves with.
Oh, tell me more about that. I want to
So,
know what people are looking for in the photos.
okay, so like let's use your background, for example, right? Like when I look at your aesthetic behind your head, I know that you've taken care to choose a chair because of the kind of mesh that you have there. I can see that there's a colored image on the wall. So I can see like there's colorful liveliness, upbeatness to it. I can see your two books there. So I can tell that I'm in a sort of thoughtful, perhaps academic space, right? And then the bookshelf. So I have a sense without you needing to talk about that this is like a lively, energized, engaged, thoughtful, smart space, right? So that's what your space articulates to me. So we have this kind of visual rhetoric that we're telling people about. So, when online dating, you get to upload let's say 6 photos that represent you. Like, is that a photograph of you eating a hot dog? Like, because that says something, right? Or is it a picture of you fine dining? Because that says something very different. Is it a picture of you at a shooting range? Because like, am I supposed to find that attractive or alarming? Is it a picture of you with lots of kids? Is it a picture of you socializing? Is it a picture of you with booze? Because there's a whole bunch of visual information that's embedded in images.
Wow, I have friends that are dating, and what they complain about most is seeing men take selfies in the bathroom mirror. And then I'll say it, there's like chaos behind them, just like you're saying. I mean, it's like their closet, there's things all over the place. They're like, oh my gosh, look at that kitchen cabinet. I mean, that counter is disgusting, right? I love that you're telling us to look for those little signs because while they may not be narcissistic, they are reflective of who the person is, and we don't look for that.
Well, it's not only who the person is, but what they think is reasonable.
Mhm.
So, if I go and take a photo in a washroom, like, is it a public washroom? Is it my personal washroom? Does it have a considered shower curtain? Is it a disgusting old shower curtain? Like, because effectively, like when we contemplate what a successful relationship is, often there's an idea around cohabitation. So basically, like you have a sense of what you might be signing up for really early on.
That would be good for most people. All right, tell me some more of these special things that people should be looking for.
When your partner is resentful about being questioned about how they treat you.
Mm.
So it's a lot around kind of this kind of implicit relational behaviors where basically what's being inferred, what's being demonstrated is that there's a hierarchical difference in who's important, right? It's
Mhm.
not like two grown adults who come together evenly and decide that they mutually want to make a relationship together. Or what happens if one person considers the other person an underling or sublimated subject or lesser than being? Or, and frequently we see this behavior online dating, they're completely replaceable. It's like, oh, I'll just flip to the next one. There'll be another one that we can replace this person in with another person, like as if we're
Mhm.
all interchangeable and not unique and distinct.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. You know, when you're talking about this, I'm thinking of sort of some of the things that people do miss. And it's not like after you've had a narcissist, yes, you have spidey radar for a narcissist. You are looking and you are trying to identify these things. And I love that we're looking at the scenery, we're looking at what the story tells us. What other kind of things should people be worried about?
So the big ones in terms of online dating profiles. This is the work of Jenny Young, and she talks about how to identify particularly toxic behavior. So, disciplinary directives, where another person is instructing another person what they're going to be doing. And we see this as simply as in words like, because often online dating spaces are paid access spaces, and sometimes people take free memberships. So even if I give you a directive that's like, you reach out to me,
Hmm.
like I've already let you know, like I'm more than comfortable person who I've never met to tell you what to do.
Hmm.
Like it's this really interesting analogy of like online dating, people come to consensually. We can all put it on our phones whenever we want, you know? And so we all kind of know what the social agreement in these spaces are. Like the idea is you put up a profile and other people put up their profiles. You check out the profiles and you write to the person who you're interested in writing to. So to be told, send me a message,
Hmm.
it's kind of like it's almost like a breach of the social engagements, a breach of the social system, right? Because it's like me telling you, like, for example, if you were going to work today, it would be like me telling you, well, put on clothes before you go to work. It's like, it's a given. We don't need to mention it, right? So, like, for somebody to tell you in an online dating space, you message me,
Hmm.
it's like, it's completely unnecessary in that space.
Hmm. Yeah, and it shows control, and it shows a few of the flags that we're talking about here.
And that's what's so interesting about this space. Like, and that's why I started the red flag, identifying red flags course that I'm doing once a month, is that these are minutia. They are tiny little subtle indicators that
Hmm.
once you become conscientious of and you learn, then you're like, oh, that person very gently is letting me know they're going to be bad news. Or they're letting me know that they are going to be a world of pain later on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. That's again fascinating stuff for people who are out there dating, because we just don't get these flags on their profile, right? I have something when I talk to my clients about going out on that date and they've been on the dating app for a while and they're chit-chatting back and forth and you're finally going to meet them. And I tell people to set boundaries on date one. Like, you're excited, you sit down, you're like, hey, I'm so excited to meet you. I just forgot that I have to be somewhere in a couple hours, so only have 2 hours. So let's make the best of it, right? So you've laid a boundary. I'm only going to be here for 2 hours. And then as it's coming up on that, if you see them try to coerce you into having just one more drink, you can drink it fast. Don't worry, we're having so much fun. Have another one, right? What they're doing is, or even asking you beyond the time, hey, come on, can we have a few more minutes? We've been waiting for a month for this, right? Again, it's not someone that listens to boundaries. Right there, you have them. And if they are someone who listens to boundaries, as that time is approaching, they're going to say, Tracy, this has been so much fun. I hope that we can get together another time, right? They're going to open that invitation and it's going to be genuine versus someone who is trying to manipulate you.
Yeah, I think the boundary transgression space is really important. The ones that I absolutely love for, and I'm like thinking more and more like set it up like a Excel spreadsheet, like it's like tick, tick, tick. And that's that they initiate inviting you out, then they come up with a concrete invitation. It's not like, um, yeah, I'll meet you there. It's like, I'll meet you at this location, at this intersection, at this date, at this time. Like, so we know that they're able to concretely organize. And
Mhm.
then, so that's, I think, a really good first space that we know, like, if they're capable of getting organized, figuring out, looking at a map, looking at a calendar, and figuring out where a good location would be. And it doesn't have to be expensive, but to know the intersection means that you've thought about it, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then the second piece is I ask as a female, and I tend to date men, is I ask, please provide me with your full name. And that is a great space for negotiating. And that's exactly what relationships are. They're negotiations, right? And so, and everything we do as humans, narcissist, no narcissist, red flag, no red flag. What humans do together is we negotiate. Please pass me the salt. Do you want to hang out on Thursday and have tea together? They're both negotiations. And so these kind of negotiations, like please provide me your full name.
Mhm.
It's a great opportunity for them to say, here's my full name. I look forward to seeing you as arranged. Or they
Mhm.
could say, here's my full name. I guess you need to do that for safety considerations these days. Or they can say something like, what? Well, I'm a nice guy. So why on earth would you need to ask this? Can't you trust me? Blah, 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 blah. And you know what? He may be completely trustworthy, but he's also articulating that he's completely clueless about safety issues for women and that what women's lived day-to-day reality is like females are enculturated differently than men in our society. When I go into a parkade, know that I better keep my head swinging and be watching continuously. A man is not enculturated like this.
Yeah.
So if a man doesn't understand when I ask for a full name about what the power dynamics are, what the reality of being a female in Western culture is like, then he's also letting me know he's a bit clueless. And you know what? I like a plugged in guy.
Yeah. Well, it's also showing a lack of empathy to the fact that for your safety, you are asking for this, not to be a jerk, just to go, this is safety protocol 101. And if it's a problem for him, then again, I would walk away right there because I'm not asking for a blood sample or a background check. I am simply asking for your name so that I know who I'm going to be sitting with and not be scammed again, as I'll say.
Well, and so I think this is a really good space. The setting up of the date, the negotiating on the name provision, the or having the date, and then doing what you suggested at the
Boundary.
the 2 hour mark. So I think those three kind of like
Tests.
test touch points to see
Hmm.
again around boundary transgressions, again to see like how humanistic and how humane the response is, and how how they comprehend the request. Those
Yeah.
are really important early spaces.
Yeah. I think too, if we look at the early part and we're with a narcissist, the love bombing that happens can seem like a dream come true. It can seem like you've met your perfect match and everything is wonderful and the love bombing is overwhelming. And that is a red flag. That's one of the first red flags because it often happens really fast and it doesn't give you time to really get to know the person and they're claiming soulmates and all of this stuff really really fast, and I think people have to realize that is a tactic and a strategy. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Rush them in, don't let them get our full name, don't let them know more about me. Let's see if they pass this test, which is jump when I say jump, right? And even if you want the relationship, another way to slow it down or another way to test is to slow it down. If they're really that much in love with you or like with you, then slowing down is not a threat. If they are upset that you are trying to just say, hey, let's go a little slower, if that offends them, run because they are just trying to show you exactly who they are. And they're not taking into consideration your feelings.
No, and I think, there's a lot of complexity and hormones and
Mhm.
desire around sexuality and like really putting that face forward when it comes to dating. These days, what I'm finding really useful is just approach it like a business endeavor. Like, hey, I'm contemplating a partnership with this person. Let's go check them out. Let's just go have a conversation. Because to my mind, like, you can't always have hot sex all the time. You actually need somebody you can talk to and functionally do things with. And so that actually, to my mind, requires the qualities of a good friendship
Mhm.
and a good friendship as the foundation. And so when we kind of go in that kind of softer way where it's like sex is not the first thing that's happening, and like actually if you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to hold off on this for a bit,
Mhm.
because if all they're after is, I mean, it's very distinct, right? It's like intimacy with you in your particularity, you in your uniqueness, your individuality, or sex and intimacy with anyone. Like there's a whole bunch of anyone's out there. And again, like they're kind of interchangeable, but if it's particular to you, then there's more room to slow down and be thoughtful and prioritize mutuality and prioritize consent. And
Mhm.
consent should always be prioritized, but the slower part is more conscientious of that, I think.
Absolutely. And I think, as you're talking about all of these things, we're testing for control. We're testing to see, are they trying to do this, do that? And we have to be very mindful of that because that's one of the keystones of a narcissist, right? And it doesn't come in like, do this or else. It often comes in as subtle control disguised as care, right? And something along the lines, I just was worried about you and I want to make sure you get home safe, which sounds like a nice thing. What if it is overbearing? And, if the concern is you should, needed someone to get you home safely, that's a different thing, right? But this subtle kind of pretend care and those things are not normal in a beginning, right? Yes, they can care, but this becomes more of a control where they are, oh, I just worried about you, and that's why I have to call you every 5 minutes, right? Things like that, that you have to be able to set a boundary. If someone pulls that kind of stuff, that's where we pull out the boundary bag and go, I prefer if we didn't do this or whatever, and then get yourself into a place where you feel safe with this person.
Yeah, and I think like the recommendation these days for women is, especially women online dating, like let those apps be in the background. They're not the dominant
Mhm.
focal point. And so it's like, yeah, check your app in the morning, check your app at night, and then get on with the rest of your day and enjoy yourself, right? And so it's interesting, like when you slow down the cadence of how often you're going on to the apps. So there's still regularity, right? You're doing it once or twice a day, but like the pushback, like I had somebody say to me, you don't respond to me fast enough, and I was thinking, thank you so much for letting me know who you are. We've never met, we don't know each other, I know nothing about you, and already you're demanding. I was like, well, I'm actually not looking for a 4-year-old to date, so I'll just head out right now, right? Block and burn.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I was just thinking of one as you were talking. I don't know why it popped in, but a huge difference is if they are one person in front of people and another person behind the door. Because I believed my ex was Prince Charming. He told me he was Prince Charming. And so I believed it. And I just wasn't looking at his actual actions in public. Oh my God, it was amazing. Everyone was like, I've never seen anyone love anyone so much. It's so amazing, right? But the truth was, Soon as the door closed, completely different. It was very social and outgoing. And when I would say, well, what's happening here in the house? He'd be like, well, it can't be on all the time. And it wasn't on all the time. It was kind, you know? And so that's what I think if we really start to look at, again, we're talking early dating here, but start to be observant when your friends come, what's happening versus when you are alone with this person. Because to me, that's one of the telltale things. And I wished I had seen it and not listened to the words, but more recorded the actions.
Okay, so this is it. You're right on it.
Mhm,
It's congruency, right? We
mhm,
want congruency. The words and the actions line up. And then
mhm,
the second piece is just ignore the words and just watch the actions.
mhm,
If the words are so mesmerizing, elixir, oh, you're gorgeous and amazing, and I want to blah, 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 sweep you off your feet, the hormone inducing, don't listen to the words and just watch the actions. The actions are where people put their, that's where their investment is,
mhm. Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Yeah. This
I,
is
I am to the point now where I've like almost like it's almost like synthesized it down, right? Like the amount of effort just to get out the door in the morning, right? To go do that thing, whatever the thing is you're going to go do. It means you rolled out of bed, you probably brushed your teeth, you probably took a shower, you probably put on clean clothes. Notice how I say probably. You might have made your bed. You might have fed yourself breakfast. You got all your stuff. You put on weather appropriate clothes, and now you're at the door. So probably you did somewhere between 5 and 10 steps in order to be able to leave the house. Like there's a lot of effort and investment in leaving the house. So then watch people's behaviors because they're not random, right? We've invested a lot of behaviors to be able to allow ourselves to get to do what we're doing.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And as you were saying, every time you talk, I'm like, oh, I got another one. I got another one. What I see is another way to test a boundary is often on a date, they might say, well, what do you want for dinner? What do you feel like? And you say, I really want Italian food. And they go, I don't really feel like that. Let's do this. Right. So why'd they ask? Like if they're not going to respect you, pay attention because I'd just as easily went, okay, no problem, we'll do that. But now the new Tracy would say, okay, we'll do that tonight, but next time I want to do Italian. Is that okay? And I'm sure they'll say sure, but it's the second time. And do they say, hey, I promised you Italian. Let's go. What's your favorite place? Right? Instead of going, oh, I don't remember that, which means they're not really invested in what you said. They're not paying attention.
Yeah, again, it's like what I was talking about earlier, the hierarchy, right? Whose life has more value, whose time and energy has more value. Like we are precious
Mhm.
beings, right? We have our life force energy in us, and if another person thinks, "Oh, well, you're totally like what you need is irrelevant to me. What I need is super important to me," then they're not really clocking you in or considering or they're not calibrating to you and the value of the preciousness of your life, right? So I
Mhm.
think there's a lot to be said. I mean, and we see this language like online dating, they'll let you know this. Like, so some of the key ones are where he lets you know he's a prize. These are often in men's dating profiles. They'll let you know he's a prize, and if you work for it, you might get it. Like, as if you're gonna win something and it's like, but actually, what he's saying is, you're going to work hard for me. And he's not saying we'll work hard for each other, which is kind of romantic and beautiful, right? Like mutual effort.
Mhm.
But you'll work hard for me. Those are good ones early on to avoid. And then the other one is, and they're pretty blatant about it. These kind of my time, I'm very busy. I'm very busy, but I'll make time for the right person. So basically, what they're saying is, I'm going to disregard most people And if you bring enough value that I determine is value, then I might, star earmark, might change my schedule. Well, you can better believe that man, when the going gets tough, is going to let you know he's too busy, right? In which case, why bother starting?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But he's let you know, as if we don't all have 24 hours in a day, as if we don't all need to eat and sleep,
Mm-hmm.
as if we don't all have very busy lives that are very full, especially in Western culture. And he's letting you know his time is more precious than yours from
Mm-hmm.
the get go.
Ooh, I got like, ew, like there's so much more awareness in here than I really ever thought. Before we got on today, I did write a bunch of things down because one of the other things I encourage people to not only when you see this, and that's what we've been talking about. You see this, that's an action, we see it, we can interpret it, right? But I like to have people think of the feelings that they have with this person. And, that inconsistency that we were talking about earlier, that's one. Confusion. If everything is just like that, it's not just the inconsistency, but that confusion of, am I in? Am I out? I'm not sure. They're almost like dangling a carrot. But if you think about like the feelings that you might have, like you might feel ignored, or like the last example, you might feel pushed and punished sometimes if you don't go to their restaurant and you wanted Italian, but they asked you, right? So, looking at how it feels, if you feel powerless and you feel blamed and you feel like you're the bad guy or you feel unsafe, right? And it's not, if it comes to unloved, it's not that you're going to love someone on date three, but someone should be like trying to make a good impression on those few dates and should be putting your priorities above theirs for those few hours, right? And that means they might open the door, they might do this, they might be gentlemen, they might be kind and loving, but we have to know what makes us feel safe. What makes us feel unloved? If they do this, I'm leaving, right? We have to have that list inside our head so that we can make better judgments.
So this is where the early, really early on, and we were talking about that really early on vetting, the
Mhm.
really early on vetting that you can do where you scan a profile, the really early on vetting where you can have conversations and ask pertinent questions. And I can walk people through those. The really early on where they set up the location that's considerate of the other person, that they provide their first name with no hiccups or even maybe an understanding, an articulation of an understanding, where, like you said, you say, I have to leave after 2 hours, and you see the response. So already then you've done like, already like, to my mind, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 test
Yes.
points, right? So
Mhm.
once we do that, and we're not looking for like over the moon, in loveness, being swept away, the whole world is going to change since so and so showed up. When what we're looking for is consistency, functionality, and these again are kind of what we would expect from a friend, right? If you and I were friends and I said to you, do you want to go for coffee on Thursday morning at so and so's at this intersection? And you would say, yeah, I'll meet you there. And I would expect, at the 10 o'clock, that heck, if you hadn't showed up by 10:15, I'm out. And probably this friendship's not going to get off the ground, right?
Mhm.
So it's like really early on, we learn about consistency and behavioral management. And like I said, there's 10 steps to be able to get out the door to get to that coffee date. So it's not just showing up at the coffee date on time, it's having achieved those 10 steps to get to that coffee date on time.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Absolutely. How about this one we're going to throw on the table? Narcissists are always victims. But as an ex-victim of a narcissist, I have also been a victim, right? And so when someone presents themselves as a victim, what message do you get? Because it could go. Certainly, there are people who are a victim. And I'm not saying this person wasn't a victim, but what kind of red flags would that bring up on a first date?
So be weary. Like we know numerically, statistically, research shows when women experience relational lethal violence, it is a male
Predator.
perpetrating violence
Mhm.
against a female, which is why the term femicide is coming out now. So we know that that is standardly the power dynamic for lethal violence. So when somebody says that they're a victim, I think that's an excellent opportunity, an invitation to ask a lot of questions. And one of the questions would be, may I have the contact information of your ex? I'd like to speak to her.
Wow, you would do that?
Because sh it depends on the situation, but she could say, yeah, I was atrocious and this is what happened and I regret what I said. Or she can say, that man's a snake.
Mhm.
Be careful. And what's always astounding to me is that a woman will say to another woman, be very careful. Like, I've had police involvement with this man.
Mhm.
And the new woman will say, like, you're a crazy woman, instead of hearing the alarm bell and
Mhm.
saying, this woman is gone out of her way at her own risk to protect me and give
Mhm.
me valuable information about a very problematic behavior.
Mhm.
And so people tend to turn on each other as opposed to take the gift for what it is, which is a very brave gift to impart to another person that they could be in danger and that they should be very conscientious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And here's my follow-up question to that. Because again, victims can be on both sides. You could both be victims of something. But the difference to me is, what did you learn?
Exactly.
And if
Exactly.
they go, well, I learned that she's a blah blah blah, that's showing me they didn't do their work.
Yes. And
I
that's what
want
we
you
want to
can be
learn.
a victim and go through hell and come out the other side by doing the work. And I learned, like in my example, I would say I learned that, I was raised by narcissistic parents and therefore I didn't know what a narcissist was. It was so familiar. I accepted the behaviors and I had people pleasing, traits, and there were things I had to work on. I was not a good boundary setter. I can identify what I had to heal, right? And so if this person has done the work, they're going to have that same kind of feedback for you, which again, let's see if they've really done the work and they listen to your boundaries without getting upset or whatever it is. But that's a really great test to say, oh gosh, that must have been so hard. What did you learn? Because
And
the angry unhealed person is going to be, wow, I learned da, 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 da,
and I
and
wouldn't even frame it as a test. It's a basic conversation
mhm,
that is about connecting and understanding and learning about the other person. And so, to my mind, it's not a test, it's a conversation, and it's a worthy conversation. But I would say you're right on it. Have a conversation about it, because as somebody who's been the targeted victim of a person who intended to harm, the amount of processing, digesting, and metabolizing trauma that was intentionally produced, and the learning that resulted, and the transformation has been profound. And I can speak to that exquisitely and in immense detail, which is why I do the work I do with women who are improving their lives now and going through major complexity and wanting one on one coaching, is
mhm.
because I understand that subtle terrain. And so if you encounter somebody, particularly a man, who lets you know he's a victim, yeah, ask the questions, unpack it, because to be harmed brings about very particular experiences that
Mhm.
require pretty extended, conscientious investment in processing and digesting and metabolizing.
I have only been on 3 dates in the last 12 years. And when I first started, it was after my divorce, and I was not ready. I mean, I was story barfing. I was like, and this happened, and that happened, and that happened, and oh my God, right? That's another giant flag for those men. She's not healed. She's not ready to, she hasn't done the work, right? So those are some of the things I think that if you sit there and if you're not ready to let go of the story and not bring it in on your first date, then like me, you're just not ready. Right? You have to get to a point where, yeah, that happened and it was terrible, but I'm looking forward and not backwards. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a different presentation when someone shows up like that.
Yeah. And I think it's a contentious space. Like I think about it in terms of women who've been impacted by violence.
Hmm.
And um, I think, yes, you should do what feels right, what feels
Hmm.
safe for you. And also, I think it's useful to articulate that you've had an experience of violence in the past
Hmm.
because, again, it takes a barometer on, if the response is, I'm so sorry that happened to you, that shouldn't have happened to you, is very different than, I'm going to go kill that dude for you. Like, I didn't ask for your help and I didn't ask for your violence.
Hmm.
So, again, it's like a barometer for how they respond. But also, if they say, oh, what's that? Or it's not so bad, like we need to know how people respond. So I think, I think to my mind, it's useful to put on the table, but I wouldn't delve into it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's it. I don't think it's advisable until you've gotten to know and trust them just a little. Right? That's something it's a shame story. You don't want to just be pushing that out to people you don't trust because only trustworthy people should hear things that are sensitive like that. They have to earn that trust and earn that right to have that information about yourself.
Yep.
It's just been amazing. I would love it if you could tell me and tell the audience how they could reach out to you. I'll put it in the notes below, but if you could just tell everybody right now, that'd be
That'd be
great.
awesome. Yeah, thank you. I'm Chavisa from the Mother Corp. It's the Mother Corp, CORP .com. And my email is the Mother Corp, so THEMOTHERCORP @proton.me. It's secure email. And people can find me also on Instagram, the Mother Corp. And I am a trauma informed divorce, co parenting, and chronic health coach for women. And I do work with some couples, and my emphasis is always on increasing safety and wellness.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with me today. I know people are going to get so much value out of this, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Such a great conversation, Tracy. Oh, I should just mention, the Red Flags workshop is on my website, and so I do a once a month, first Monday of every month. I do a Red Flags workshop. It's 2 hours in the evening, and it's super low price because I think this information is so valuable for people to have, and I just want more people to safeguard themselves.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that with
yeah.
us.
All right, lovely to see you. Such a great conversation. Always happy to talk to you.
Thank you. Well, I hope you guys found that interesting. It's been a really long time since I've done a red flag of narcissist abuse kind of video. So I'm glad that we jumped back into it. And I hope you picked up a couple of little tips. Those things I tell my clients, just you set the timer on the date, see how they react. If they ask you where you want to eat, pay attention. Do they listen to you? There's so many little tests, and I think we've given you a bunch more to add to your list. So this is Tracy Malone. I am the founder of narcissistabusesupport.com, and I coach people all over the world. If you need help, you can find anything about me. My link to my website is down below, and I am happy to help.